Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be making a winged bowl out of some Australian Red Coolibah Burl that I picked up from Exotic Wood Zone. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you stopping by and checking it out. If you've watched my other videos, we're going to do a little something different today, and I'm going to try and narrate the process as we go. I always try to maximize the use of the burl. So I'm going to clean off the bottom here, get it nice and level, and then attach a waste block to be used as a tenon. For most woods and burls, I typically use Titebond 3 wood glue, let it set up for a couple hours, or in this case I believe I let it set up overnight and turn the next morning. After I've roughed out the general shape of the bowl and where it's going to meet the wings, I focus on refining that profile. I want a narrow foot and a smooth transition up the wall to where it meets the wing with a real crisp break between the two. The mass of this burl really wasn't centered with the overall shape, so what I'm looking for here is to get an even amount of wing, or as much as possible, on both sides. So I'm refining that shape a little bit more, narrowing the diameter of the bottom of the bowl so I can have wing exposed all the way around. If you plan on making one of these, one thing to keep in mind is if you look at my leading hand, you just always have to be aware of where your hands are, or in my case, my porky fingers, because those wings can take off a big chunk of meat if not a finger. I did everyone the favor of editing out most of the sanding, but with most of my pieces I typically start with 180 grit Abernet up through 400, sometimes 600 depending on the piece. In this case, I couldn't use my typical sanding process. The wings wouldn't allow it, so I converted over to using a corded drill, work through the grits there, and then some hand sanding to really finish it off and get rid of any tool marks. If you take a look at the face of this burl, when they harvested off the tree, they weren't being precise necessarily with a chainsaw. So seeing that ahead of time, I went ahead and left the wings thick when I turned the bottom, because I knew I'd have to turn quite a bit off the face to get it all trued up. You don't really want to turn the center of the bowl necessarily. What I'm doing here is looking for at what depth do I start to get solid wood. So that will set as a gauge, and I can back up and work on the wings. The thinner those wings get, they're going to flex, and I want a real nice even surface. So I'm trying to leave as much meat in the center of the piece while I turn and establish the wing thickness, working from the outside in. The view you have while you're turning this is obviously much different than the camera angle. It's pretty difficult to see where you're at in the cut in relationship to the wing, so I've edited a lot of it out, but there's a lot of starting and stopping just to check your thickness, see how much further you have to go. And then you'll notice typically what I'll do is I'll turn my bevel and let it kiss the wood and back it off before I start to move the cut forward, just so I know where I'm at because I'm turning so much air. Getting pretty close to my desired wing thickness here, so you'll see a lot of just real light shear cuts, just sneaking up on that final thickness. The last thing I want is to get a big catch right now. As you can see, I'm getting a pretty good amount of flex in those wings. This is about as thin as I feel comfortable going, so I don't blow out one of those wings and destroy the piece. Now I'm looking to decrease the diameter of the top of the bowl so that it matches the transition to the bottom of the bowl underneath the wings. You'll notice I keep dodging my head back and forth between the two, just really trying to make sure that they line up so it looks like the bowl's emerging from underneath through the wings up to the top. And then real light cuts to blend it into the rest of the wing. One of the tips I picked up somewhere, probably on YouTube, was to get that profile to match the top and the bottom. As it's turning, you look at the horizon, look at the top of the bowl, and just watch the horizon, and that'll give you a good viewpoint. From this camera angle, it's kind of hard to tell, but those two are pretty close. Now that those wings are established and sanded up, I'm going to focus my attention on the center and start taking some of that weight out of the middle. I don't want to take too much out though, because I want to establish my wall thickness on the bowl. So I'm going to leave a good amount on the inside while I work towards that diameter for the wall thickness on the bowl itself. From a design standpoint, my goal is to have the wall thickness of the bowl be as close as possible to the thickness of the wings, which is about 1/4 inch. So I'm just slowly refining that, trying to sneak up on that magic number. I want the bottom of the bowl to be the same thickness as the walls and the wings, so I'm using my homemade depth gauge here. Typically all I'll do is take a straight edge, lay it flat across the bottom, take the depth gauge, measure what that is, and then if in this case if the wall thickness is a 1/4 inch, I'll back it off that 1/4 inch, lock it down with that screw, and then I can see how much further I have to go. In this case it looks like I have about over a 1/4 inch more to go before I'm at the optimal depth. Again, starting with 180 and then working up through the grits. After 400, I blew out all the little dust particles from the crevices with the air compressor and then hit it with some myelin sanding sealer. I'm going to use my vacuum chuck to reverse chuck this up and take that tenon off. And I found that without the sanding sealer on there, sometimes that vacuum chuck will mar the wood a little bit where it touches to the chuck. Using my Simple Wood Tools vacuum chuck. I think I picked this up a little over a year ago. Pretty affordable. You could always make your own if you're interested in vacuum chucks. There's plenty of videos out there. In this case, you could just make a jam chuck and turn the tenon off that way, cut off the rest of the nub and sand it. This is the part of the project where I feel like the pucker factor goes to level 10. I've been real mindful of where my left hand is. Those wings spinning like that, it's like a saw blade. The piece is being held on by the vacuum chuck, so lots of opportunities for failure right here at the end after you put so much work in. Really what I'm trying to do though is turn the bottom of that tenon off. I really want light shear cuts. I just want to get rid of the remnants of that waste block. And then I'm looking for a little concave in the middle going out towards the foot so that when it sits real level, no rocking on a nice surface. Finishing up this piece with some Hampshire Sheens Danish oil. I started using this maybe 2-3 months ago, something like that. Ordered it from the Walnut Log. Real good stuff. I like the finish it gives. It's actually got a pleasant odor to it, and it's food safe. I put on 4 coats over 3 days, let it cure, and then I buffed it with some Triple E compound. I used a small wheel for this one. I felt like the big buffing wheel was going to grab the piece and toss it across the shop. Luckily it didn't happen. I got some glamour shots coming up here at the end. Really would appreciate some feedback though. Tell me what you guys think. Do you like this process where I'm narrating, or do you prefer the music with some pop-up comments along the way? Either way, thanks for watching. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and like and subscribe.